Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Monday. It's March 11th. This will be our chart lesson for the day, and it was all uphill today. This is a strong trend. We really have a two-tiered channel working higher here that was really in play all day. We finally got an overshoot here, but you see prices kept climbing. Generally, once you get an overshoot, it's not long before you get a break, and notice we did finally get one here. Um, but we just still continue to work higher even after that. We got our break, moved to a new high, and we really kind of went sideways into the close. We've started going higher again since then. But there's a couple of things to take note here. There's a repeat pattern here all day long. Notice that we spike up and go into this channel. That's what we call a spike in channel. Then we get a spike in channel right here, and we go sideways a little bit. Then we get another spike, and there's a somewhat of a channel here. I don't think it's as important because you're overshooting here and you got to be really careful about getting long right in here. That's the reason I don't have a whole lot marked. But then notice we kind of spike up and go into another channel here. This is really turns out to be your spike up down here, and then we go into another channel. So you get that repeat pattern multiple times here today. And then actually right here we spike up and go we really just go to the upper side of this channel, but it's the same type pattern all over again, and you really could probably get a little bit different trend line here, but you're better off to play the same one. And honestly, once we got up into here, really even all up through here, I don't mark all these, but just about any time we came back to the trend line and you got a good signal bar, you can go long. I mean, this is one of those trends. This doesn't look real strong, but it really is. Um, Notice how you've got lots of little bars. There's no real big bars, just lots of little bars, and then you get little small corrections. I mean, that's really probably the biggest correction we had um, all day, other than maybe early on here. That's the biggest correction we really had all day. Um, you can see I don't see anything. This was probably the second biggest correction, and those aren't much of a correction. So that's telling you that things are really strong. When you see these little bars with lots of stems and dojis mixed in that just keep going higher and higher, that's a strong trend. This is really a little bit too steep. It's close to being a 45-degree angle, but it's just a little bit steep in my opinion. And this is probably more healthy right here when it finally leveled off. And that may be a little flatter than somewhere in between those is probably a more healthy trend, but generally a 45-degree angle is a pretty good trend. This one's not really too steep. It's just so straight up and you're getting this overshoot up in here. You got to be really careful. And that's the reason I don't have a whole lot of trades marked up here because you don't know if this is an overshoot or if there's another level up here. In the end, it's an overshoot, but it doesn't hardly matter because the trend is so strong. It just keeps climbing. So you could really argue for any time we had a failed second entry short or we came back to a trend line and you got a good signal bar, you just about could argue to take those trades every single time. Obviously, I didn't mark them all. I just marked the more safer ones. I did mark a few green ones in here, but you could mark a bunch more green ones. You really could. And as I see them, and we'll talk about them a little bit as I see them as we go through it, but I'm going to back out here and make this a little bigger. And we'll go through the trades. You had to be a little patient this morning. 7 o'clock came right in here somewhere. And there really the failed second entry short came here before 7 o'clock, and then you came back again. Um, that's a really big signal bar right into the highs. This thing is not looking that strong at this point. I mean, this is an uptrend, but I'd want to wait till at least came back to the trend line, which is here, and then you've got this short-term trend working down, and there's been no break or new low or any new low, but this does confirm that trend line, and you get a little 3-bar matching low right there. And so it's only about 3 ticks. It's right at the key entry point. Everything's right at the EMA, so you may want to risk that one. If you do catch this one trade by being a little bit aggressive, you could have ridden this up all day. You don't even have to enter again. Just keep riding your. I mean, there's no real big corrections to scare you out. I mean, I may exit right up here when we overshot, but on a day like this, you'd probably been better off just to hold on. It's hard for me to do that. You know, everybody's personality driven when it comes to exiting. So really, I tell people to, kind of take that the way based on their personality. Me, I can't stand to watch me get a bunch of profit in here and then watch a big correction only to watch it go higher again, even though it might go higher. I like to exit, take my profits, and then look for another entry. But some people hate trying to find the entries, and they're better at managing those pullbacks and corrections. And so if that's your, more of the swing trading type, and if that's you, then that's the way you need to trade it. So anyway, this one's a little bit too aggressive to be blue. It does take off, but sometimes those pay off. And then notice that we get a first entry, and then we push up and we get a second entry, and it fails right there at the midpoint, really. And if you drew this line off these highs and then drug it down, it's going to create a bounce right at that trend line as well. So I like that one just because it's a failed second entry short right at the midline. So we're probably going to, you'd expect us to push on up. Instead, we just kind of form another channel in here. We come back to the trend line again. It actually breaks lower and looks like it's going to correct, and then it turns and goes out the other side. This one is almost, you could argue, to be blue because there's really a little double bottom here. So first entry, second entry. Even though this didn't tick lower, you can see there's a 2-bar matching low, and then we had another 2-bar matching low. So technically, that's a double bottom right there. And so you could count that as a new low, first entry, second entry. So this one's real close. You could actually argue to make that one blue. I mean, this is a clear spiking channel. It does confirm that shorter term trend line up through there too. And then notice that we push up. We come back to it again. And there's a little hidden 2 legs down and a bounce right off that key entry point. I'm going to take that one. Come back. There's actually another one here. The only reason I didn't mark this one is because we just come off the high. So we're probably going to come back to here. We end up coming back to that point as you would expect, but the market's so strong we just go sideways. So when we do get back to there, and you've really got a double test here, but not a very good signal bar. So then you get another double test of this level, and this one's bouncing right off the EMA and the midline, and a nice bullish bar. So I like going long there. Plus, you got a new high here, first entry pullback. So that's a second entry long too. It's more sideways than anything, but that's what will happen a lot with these kind of trends. But yeah, you got a double test here. You got a little bit of an overshoot, but it's not enough yet. I mean, you could adjust this a little bit. You could probably say this is a little higher, so I don't think we really have an overshoot yet. It's the first break of this. It's off the midline, EMA. A lot of reasons to like that trade there, especially with that nice signal bar. So I like that one. And now we got an overshoot. Even though I'd call that a failed second entry short, I'm scared of that one. But again, with a strong, this is one you could argue to be green. And then I definitely wouldn't take this one going long into the high of the day. And you see you would have got burned on that one. But then you come back and you make a low. This one you really, you're just really kind of going sideways after that overshoot. I just don't see anything in there I like. There's a real good signal bar here. But you're not even, and it is off what looks like another spike in channel, but you really need a little more evidence that's in play. It even comes back here. Again, this is your signal bar, not a very good one. I'm not going to take it. There's a higher low here. Again, it's right into that upper trend line right there, or trend channel line. It is off the, you came off the EMA here, but again, you got to go long at the high of the day, right into that trend channel. And you see it doesn't go very far before it corrects. I may take this one because this is right back at the EMA and the midline. And if you draw this trend line the way it starts out, you could argue that you get a close outside a new low. But you do get a bounce off this trend line, and it's a great signal bar for a change. So that's one. Again, you could argue for that one to almost be blue. These are just kind of going sideways again. They're not back to the key entry point. I'd kind of wait, and then of course we come back, and then these are more neutral. But I like this one just because you finally get a decent signal bar here. And you've tried to go lower 3 times, nothing can close below that trend line. And this is basically a second entry too. Look at that high. First entry, then you correct. Second entry. You might even argue there's a second entry there, but that's more like a little double correction in there. And then so now you might expect, and you got your attempt at a second leg down, and it can't get below that trend line. So you may take that one. I like that one. And like I said, you could really argue for a lot of these in here to be green, and the green ones to even be blue. Of course, we bounce, take off here. We're back above. You know, I almost like this trade. It actually goes lower and goes out. If you had enough room before that high, I'd say take that one. But you don't even have enough room really back up. You know, if you just went straight up here, you don't really have enough room. It ends up working. Again, that's one you might argue that you could be green at least. But when we come back again and make a failed second entry short and bounce off the EMA and the midline of this secondary channel floating across here with a nice signal bar and enough room, I like going long there. And then of course we make a double top and then a first entry, you pull back, there's a second entry long right here. That signal bar is not good enough, but it makes another one here with an equal low, so you could use that one. I like going long right there. You might even let it break above this one and drop your buy limit order one tick above this one just to see, and it would have come back and filled you before it went higher. And then of course you make a new high and you come back first entry, and then you get a second entry long right there. I like going long again on a second entry right there. It's just barely into the 2 o'clock hour. This thing's been going up all day. You're back at the midline. The only problem with this one, it is after 2 and it is right below the midline. But I mean, like I said, anything that comes back and gives you a second entry, maybe even a first entry, you almost just have to take it. And you can see the biggest correction of the day was right here. Actually this one, but once the big trend got going, most of the corrections were just sideways. Notice how they're all just going sideways. You got a little bit of correction there. That's your biggest correction. And then this is more sideways. I mean, this is still trending up. And then you got a little bit of one right there. That's probably your second biggest correction. And everything just keeps going higher. Even up here after 2 o'clock, notice how your corrections are just going sideways. I mean, that's a strong trend, and you're just looking for reasons to get in. So you could make an argument for a lot of different trades in there. So these are the kind of days that make trading easy, to be honest with you. And what's sad is you'll get people that are trying to sell the highs all the way up, and they just keep getting burned and keep getting burned. And on a day like this, don't even think about selling. Just wait for a correction back to a key entry point and look for a good signal bar. That's really the bottom line. If you get a good signal bar on a second entry, then you better not hesitate. Or if you get a good entry on a failed second entry short, you better not hesitate, because even if you had a loser in here, all you got to do is catch one of these, and several of these had runners. I mean, just about every one of them had a runner. Runner here, runner here, runner here, runner here. You would have got a runner here, here. I mean, just about every one of these was a runner. And so it's easy, you know, if you do get a small loser where you got a little aggressive or something, it's almost easy to, I mean, it's easier to make it back up. So doesn't mean you automatically just enter anywhere, but hopefully you get the point I'm trying to make is that if you get a good setup at a good key entry point with a good signal bar, you just about have to take it. So anyway, that's going to do it for today. One small housekeeping issue. I don't do chart lessons on Fridays anyway, but I may take an extra day off this week. It's spring break here. My kids are out of school, and we're talking about spending some time with them, making a long weekend. So I hadn't made up my mind yet if Friday may be all I need, but we may end up leaving out on Thursday. And if we do, I'll probably take Thursday off. So might be a short week. We'll have to see. Just be prepared. I'll let you know ahead of time. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up for today. This is Mac. with priceactiontrading system.com, and we'll see you next time.